Emissary of the Stars. Commander Elise Dawson stood at the observation deck of the Thalarian mothership, trying to maintain her composure as she gazed upon the swirling nebula outside. The Horsehead Nebula looked different from here, more vibrant, almost alive. Earth seemed impossibly distant now, a tiny blue dot she had left behind 3 months ago. "Commander Dawson, the Council will receive you in 10 minutes, announced her Thalarian guide, Vextor. His translucent skin glowed with bioluminescent patterns that shifted with his mood, currently a formal blue-green. "Thank you," Elise replied, straightening her uniform. The silver-gray diplomatic attire felt stiff against her skin, emblazoned with Earth's new interstellar insignia. "I'm ready." She wasn't. No one could truly be ready for this. Being selected as humanity's first emissary to the Thalarian Galactic Council had seemed an honor beyond imagination 6 months ago. Now, standing at the precipice of first formal contact, the weight of 7 billion lives rested on her shoulders. The central chamber of the Thalarian Council stretched before her like a massive amphitheater. 7 tiers of seating curved in perfect concentric rings, filled with representatives from dozens of species. Some were humanoid, others defied categorization, masses of tentacles, crystalline structures that seemed more mineral than organic, beings of pure energy contained in specialized suits. Elise walked forward, her footsteps echoing. The universal translator at her throat hummed gently, ready to convert her words to the standard galactic language. At the chamber's center sat the Thalarian High Council, 5 elder statesmen of their species, their skin patterns displaying complex mathematical sequences that demonstrated their status. Behind them, elevated on a platform of what appeared to be liquid metal, sat Queen Nyxera. The Thalarian queen was breathtaking. Unlike her subjects, whose height averaged 7 feet, Nyxera stood nearly 9 feet tall. Her skin displayed constantly shifting patterns that resembled star maps, and her eyes, 3 of them, glowed with an inner light that seemed to pierce directly through Elise. "The human representative may approach," announced the chief counselor, his voice booming throughout the chamber. Elise stepped forward, her heart hammering. The diplomatic training she'd received seemed woefully inadequate now, but she maintained her composure as she bowed in the manner she'd been taught, not too deep, maintaining eye contact with the council. "I bring greetings from Earth and the United Nations of Humanity," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "We are honored to be welcomed into the presence of the Thalarian Council and seek to establish peaceful relations between our worlds." The chief counselor's skin patterns shifted to a contemplative purple. "Earth has only recently achieved interstellar capability. Your species is young, impulsive. Many on this council question whether you are ready for the responsibilities of galactic citizenship." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Not unexpected, Earth had been controversial from the moment the Thalarian scout ship had detected their first experimental warp signature 18 months ago. "We are young," Elise acknowledged, "but we learn quickly. Humanity has overcome divisiveness in the face of greater understanding. The knowledge that we are not alone in the universe has united our planet in ways previously thought impossible." "Pretty words," came a voice from the 3rd tier. A reptilian being with scales that shifted like oil on water leaned forward. "But the Zorn Confederacy remembers how the humans responded when our observation vessel crashed in their ocean. With weapons drawn." Elise had been briefed on this. "We regret the misunderstanding that occurred during the Pacific Ocean incident. Humanity had no context for your arrival and acted from fear. Since then, we have established protocols for peaceful contact." The debate continued for nearly an hour, accusations, questions, and thinly veiled threats from various council members. Throughout it all, Queen Nyxera remained silent, observing. Elise felt the Queen's gaze on her constantly, evaluating, measuring. Finally, the Queen raised a hand, and the chamber fell silent immediately. "The human speaks with conviction," Nyxera said, her voice melodic yet powerful. "I would hear more of Earth's proposal for alliance." Encouraged by this intervention, Elise outlined the trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and defensive pacts that Earth's governments had authorized her to propose. She emphasized humanity's adaptability, their resourcefulness, their willingness to learn. As the session concluded, Elise felt drained but hopeful. The Queen's intercession had been unexpected. The briefings had suggested Nyxera rarely participated in initial diplomatic meetings. Over the next 3 days, Elise attended numerous diplomatic functions, meeting representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations. Some were openly hostile to humanity's inclusion, others cautiously interested in what Earth might offer. During a formal reception on the 4th night, Elise noticed the Queen watching her from across the vast hall. Nyxera stood apart from the crowd, her attendants maintaining a respectful distance. "She's curious about you," said a voice beside her. Elise turned to find Jordan, a Thalarian diplomat she'd established a tentative rapport with. "The Queen? Why would she take interest in me specifically?" Jordan's skin patterns shifted to an amused orange. "Queen Nyxera has ruled for 3 centuries. She has encountered many species, but humans, you are different. Unpredictable. She finds that intriguing." Before Elise could respond, a deafening explosion rocked the hall. The floor beneath them heaved, sending dignitaries sprawling. Elise instinctively ducked, military training kicking in as debris rained down from the ceiling. "We're under attack," someone screamed in the universal language. Through the smoke and chaos, Elise saw armed figures in black environmental suits pouring through a breach in the wall. Their weapons, plasma-based by the look of them, fired indiscriminately into the crowd. "The Void Collective," Jordan gasped beside her, his skin now pale with fear. "Extremists who oppose all interspecies cooperation." Elisa's gaze darted around the room. The attackers were methodically working their way toward the center, where many of the council members had gathered. And among them, suddenly vulnerable, stood Queen Nyxera, separated from her guards in the chaos. Without hesitation, Elise sprinted across the hall, dodging energy blasts and falling debris. A Void Collective fighter turned toward her, weapon raised. She dropped and slid beneath an overturned table, then vaulted over it, landing a solid kick to the attacker's midsection. The suit was armored, but the blow was enough to unbalance them. Elise wrenched the weapon from their grasp and used it to stun 2 more attackers converging on a group of wounded diplomats. "Get to safety," she shouted, helping an injured crystalline being to its feet. The universal translator struggled with her adrenaline-heightened voice, but the meaning was clear. Across the room, she saw 3 attackers approaching the Queen. Nyxera stood tall, unafraid, but she was clearly their target. The Queen's personal guard lay wounded nearby. Elise didn't think. She acted. Sprinting toward the Queen, she tackled the nearest attacker, using their momentum to throw them into the second. The third turned, weapon charging, but Elise was faster. She fired the stolen plasma weapon, striking them squarely in the chest. "Your Majesty," Elise gasped, positioning herself between the Queen and the ongoing battle. "We need to get you to safety." For a moment, Nyxera studied her with those luminous eyes. Then, surprisingly, she nodded. "Lead the way, Commander Dawson." Together they navigated through the chaos, Elise clearing a path while protecting the Queen. Twice more they encountered Void Collective fighters, and twice Elise engaged them without hesitation, despite the burns she sustained from a glancing energy blast. When they finally reached a secure chamber where Thalarian security forces had established a defensive position, Elise nearly collapsed from exhaustion and pain. The Queen's attendants rushed forward, surrounding Nyxera protectively. "Get medical attention for the human," the Queen commanded, her voice allowing no argument. As medics approached, Nyxera stepped closer to Elise, looking down at her with an expression Elise couldn't interpret. "You risked your life for mine," Nyxera stated. No diplomatic protocol required such action. Elise winced as a medic applied a healing compound to her burns. "It wasn't about protocol, Your Majesty. It was the right thing to do." The Queen's skin patterns shifted to a deep, rich purple that Elise had never seen before. Perhaps there is more to humanity than our report suggested. Before Elise could respond, security officials surrounded the Queen, ushering her to a more secure location. The last thing Elise saw before medical personnel took her for treatment was Nyxera looking back, those luminous eyes fixed on her with new awareness. Hours later, as she recuperated in the medical bay, Elise received a message delivered by a royal attendant. Queen Nyxera requests your presence tomorrow, once you have recovered. She wishes to speak with you privately. The attendant's skin patterns shifted to a respectful blue. She says you have surprised her, Commander Dawson. The Queen is rarely surprised. Elise nodded, too exhausted for words. As the attendant left, she gazed out at the stars through the medical bay's viewport. In a single day, everything had changed. For better or worse, humanity's future in the galactic community now hinged on whatever Nyxera wished to discuss. And somewhere deep inside, Elise knew that whatever happened next would alter the course of human history forever. Heart of the Cosmos. Elise stood outside the Queen's private chambers, her freshly healed wound still tender beneath her uniform. The Thalarian medical technology had worked wonders, but her body remembered the trauma of the attack. A royal guard escorted her through doors that seemed to dissolve rather than open, revealing a space unlike anything she had expected. Queen Nyxera's personal quarters were not the opulent palace Elise had imagined, but rather an observatory of sorts. The ceiling and walls displayed what appeared to be real-time projections of distant star systems, giving the impression of floating in space itself. At the center, Nyxera stood beside a three-dimensional holographic display of what Elise recognized as the local galactic arm. Commander Dawson, the Queen acknowledged, her skin patterns shifting to a welcoming blue-violet. I am pleased to see you recovered. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty, Elise replied with a formal bow. And for the medical care. Please, approach. Nyxera gestured toward the holographic display. As Elise stepped closer, the Queen studied her with those piercing luminescent eyes. Do you know why I requested this private audience? Elise considered her answer carefully. I assume it relates to yesterday's attack. Partially. The Queen's patterns shifted, forming complex geometric sequences that the translator couldn't interpret. What you did, placing yourself between danger and others, is uncommon among established galactic species. Self-preservation typically overrides altruism. It's not so uncommon on Earth, Elise said. Many humans would have done the same. Nyxera circled the holographic display, her movements fluid and graceful despite her imposing height. Perhaps that is what makes your species remarkable. You are young, yes. Impulsive, certainly. But there is something else. She paused, standing directly before Elise. You have the strongest heart I have encountered in centuries, Commander Dawson. The translator hesitated on the word heart, cycling through several alternatives before settling. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, Your Majesty. In Thalarian philosophy, the heart represents not just courage but conviction, the alignment of belief and action. Nyxera's central eye seemed to glow more intensely. Many species claim noble ideals, but few demonstrate them when facing their own mortality. The holographic display shifted, zooming out to reveal a much larger portion of the galaxy. Several areas glowed with an ominous red. The attack yesterday was not isolated. The Void Collective has grown stronger than we anticipated. Our intelligence suggests they are planning coordinated strikes against multiple Council worlds, including Earth. Elise's stomach tightened. Earth has minimal defenses against that level of attack. Yes. Your world would fall quickly without assistance. The Queen's tone remained even, though her skin patterns shifted to darker hues. Which brings me to why you are here. I am proposing an alliance, not just diplomatic, but military. Joint command between Thalarian forces and Earth's defensive capabilities. Elise blinked in surprise. Joint command? Your Majesty, while I'm honored, I don't have the authority to. I have already communicated with your United Nations Security Council, Nyxera interrupted. They have granted you provisional authority to establish emergency security protocols with the Thalarian fleet. The implications were staggering. Earth had only a handful of ships capable of interstellar travel, none armed for serious combat. The Thalarian fleet, by contrast, was among the most powerful in known space. Why me? Elise asked plainly. There are more experienced military commanders on Earth. Nyxera's patterns shifted to what Elise had come to recognize as amusement. Experience with Earth tactics would be irrelevant against the Void Collective. What we need is adaptability, innovation, and heart. You have demonstrated all three. Before Elise could respond, an urgent signal pulsed through the room. A Thalarian officer materialized as a hologram, his skin patterns flashing urgent red. My queen, Void Collective vessels have been detected approaching the Procyon system. They will reach the human colony there within 14 hours. Procyon, Earth's first and only extrasolar settlement, home to 8,000 scientists and their families. Established just 6 months ago, it had minimal defenses. Prepare the royal fleet, Nyxera ordered. We deploy in 1 hour. She turned to Elise. Your first test of command comes sooner than expected, Commander. Are you prepared? Elise straightened. I'll need to understand your tactical systems, ship capabilities, and command protocols. Already arranged. Fleet Admiral Trenvor will brief you en route. The Queen's patterns shifted to a deep, resolute violet. We stand together, or we fall separately. Within the hour, Elise found herself aboard the Thalarian flagship, a vessel so vast it dwarfed Earth's largest cities. Admiral Trenvor, initially skeptical of human involvement, proved to be a precise and thorough instructor. As they hurled through subspace toward Procyon, Elise absorbed as much information as she could about Thalarian battle tactics and the Void Collective's known strategies. They favor overwhelming force, Trenvor explained, his skin patterns clinical and detached. Their weapons target life support systems first, then communications. They leave no survivors, not because they cannot take prisoners, but because they choose not to. Psychological warfare, Elise nodded. Creating fear is part of their strategy. Precisely. Their philosophy holds that cooperation between species is unnatural, that true evolutionary progress comes only through isolation and competition. Queen Nyxera joined them on the bridge as they approached Procyon. Her presence immediately elevated the crew's focus, their skin patterns sharpening to attentive precision. Status report, she commanded. Void Collective fleet detected, 7 warships approaching the colony, reported a sensor officer. Our arrival will precede theirs by approximately 20 minutes. Not enough time to evacuate the colony. Elise studied the tactical display, her mind racing. The Thalarian fleet consisted of 5 capital ships and 12 support vessels, superior firepower, but the Void Collective had the advantage of choosing their attack vector. We should divide our forces, Elise suggested. Create a defensive perimeter around the colony with 3 capital ships while using the other 2 and the support vessels to engage the enemy directly. Admiral Trenvor's patterns shifted skeptically. Standard protocol calls for concentrated force. Which they'll be expecting, Elise countered. The Void Collective studies your tactics just as you study theirs. We need to surprise them. Nyxera observed the exchange silently, then nodded. Implement Commander Dawson's strategy. And prepare the phase shift technology. Trenvor's patterns registered shock. My queen, the phase shift is experimental. And necessary, Nyxera stated firmly. Commander Dawson will coordinate its deployment. As they exited subspace near Procyon, Elise had barely minutes to grasp the basics of the phase shift technology, essentially a massive energy field that could temporarily push a vessel slightly out of normal spacetime, making conventional weapons pass harmlessly through it. The limitation was its enormous power requirement, it could only be maintained for approximately 3 minutes. The colony came into view, a collection of domed structures on Procyon IV's surface, vulnerable and exposed. Above it, the first Void Collective vessels were already approaching, sleek and predatory. All ships, assume defensive positions, Elise commanded, surprised at how naturally the role came to her. Support vessels, prepare targeting solutions for the lead enemy ships. Capital vessels 3, 4, and 5, establish perimeter around the colony. 1 and 2, prepare for direct engagement. The battle unfolded with terrifying speed. The Void Collective ships, realizing they'd been detected, accelerated toward the colony, weapons hot. Thalarian vessels moved to intercept, energy weapons lancing across the void. "They've adapted to our weapon frequencies," reported a tactical officer as the enemy ships shrugged off the initial volley. Elise turned to Nyxera. "The phase shift, can it be reversed? Instead of making us intangible, could it momentarily solidify their shields?" The Queen's patterns shifted to an intense, focusing blue. "Theoretically, yes. But the recalibration would take time." "How much time?" "4 minutes, perhaps 5. Elise nodded grimly. "We need to hold them off that long. Admiral, concentrate all fire on their lead vessel. Make them think that's our priority target." As the battle raged, Elise worked alongside Thalarian engineers to reconfigure the phase shift technology. Twice, the flagship shuddered violently as enemy weapons found their mark. Damage reports flooded in, but Elise remained focused. When the reconfiguration was complete, only 3 of the 5 capital ships remained fully operational. The colony's outer dome had been breached, though emergency protocols had saved most of the inhabitants. "Target all enemy vessels," Elise ordered. "Deploy modified phase shift on my mark." The Void Collective ships, sensing victory, pressed their attack, converging on the weakened Thalarian formation. "Mark." The modified phase shift activated, not around the Thalarian vessels, but projected outward, engulfing the enemy fleet. For a brief moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, as the enemy ships fired, their own energy weapons couldn't pass through their suddenly solidified shields. The backlash of energy erupted across their hulls, creating cascading overloads. "All vessels, full offensive barrage," Elise commanded. The combined firepower of the remaining Thalarian ships struck the vulnerable enemy vessels simultaneously. 3 Void Collective ships were destroyed outright, the others, severely damaged, began retreat maneuvers. "Shall we pursue?" Admiral Trenvor asked, his patterns showing reluctant respect. Elise looked to Nyxera, who had observed the entire battle in silence. "No," the Queen decided. "Our priority is the colony. Dispatch medical teams and repair crews immediately." Hours later, with the colony secure and repair efforts underway, Elise stood with Nyxera in a temporary command center on the planet's surface. Through the transparent dome, they could see the Thalarian fleet in orbit, silhouetted against Procyon's light. "Your strategy saved thousands of lives today," Nyxera said. "Creative adaptation of our technology in ways we had not considered." "It was a team effort," Elise replied. "Your engineers made it possible. But you saw the possibility." The Queen's patterns shifted to a deep, rich purple that seemed to indicate profound respect. "This is why your heart matters, Commander Dawson. Not just courage to fight, but vision to see beyond established patterns." A communication officer approached, his patterns indicating urgency. "My Queen, we've intercepted Void Collective transmissions. They're rallying their forces, at least 30 vessels converging near the Sirius Gateway. Their target appears to be Earth itself." Elise felt her blood run cold. 30 vessels would overwhelm Earth's defenses in minutes. "How soon?" she asked. 3 days, perhaps 4. Nyxera's pattern steadied into resolute determination. "Then we have work to do, Commander. Your heart has proven strong in battle. Now we shall see if it is strong enough to save your homeworld. Elise met the Queen's gaze, finding unexpected kinship in those alien eyes. We'll need to contact Earth, coordinate our remaining forces, and develop new strategies. Indeed. Nixera's central eye seemed to glow with newfound respect. The galaxy is changing, Commander Dawson. Old divisions are failing. Perhaps what we need now is not just strength of arms, but strength of heart, the courage to forge new paths together. As they turned to the tactical display, plotting Earth's defense, Elise realized something profound had shifted. She had come to the stars as humanity's representative, hoping merely for acceptance. Instead, she had found something far more valuable, a true alliance born of mutual respect and shared purpose. The battle for Earth would come, and with it, challenges greater than any humanity had faced. But they would not face them alone. And in that knowledge, Elise found both hope and determination. The stars above Procyon seemed to shine brighter somehow, witnessing the beginning of something unprecedented, a bond between species that transcended fear and prejudice, founded on the strongest power in the cosmos, a heart willing to fight not just for itself, but for all.